Okay, welcome to Coach O's Math. And today we're talking about least common multiple, or the LCM. Remember in the last chapter we talked about greatest common factor. Well, this is where you have to be very careful. You have to think about multiple. Multiple, multiply. Think multiply. When you multiply two numbers together, you get a multiple, which means what both numbers go into. So the smallest multiple of the two numbers is the least common multiple. You're trying to find the smallest number that both numbers go into. You could just multiply the two numbers together and get a multiple, but it would just be a multiple. It wouldn't be the smallest number. So let's look at what multiples are. If I say I count by eights, so we go 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, and 48. Multiples means that I'm counting by eights, or if I multiplied 8 times 1, 8, 8 times 2, 16, 8 times 3, 24, and so on. Here, I'm going to do 16. 16, 32, I'm counting by 16, 48, and 64. Now, if I want to know what's the smallest number that both 8 and 16 go into, I could list the multiples and then look and compare to see what's the smallest number. Look at 16. Do they both go into 64? Yes, they both go into 64. But I don't want that one. I want the number they both go into that's the smallest number. Excuse me. So, there's sometimes if the numbers get really large, then this would be kind of hard. It would take you a lot longer to list all the multiples. Sometimes it's a good method. Sometimes it's going to take too long. So what are we going to do? We're going to use prime factorization to find the least common multiple. Now you already know how to do this. You have to express all the factors of the numbers given as prime numbers. Well, we're going to do this one. Watch me how I do this and then write this down. But listen to what I'm saying first. Then pause the video and copy it down, or rewind it and re-listen to it and write it as we go. So we're going to find the prime factorization of 8. So 2 times 4. We're going to circle as we go clearly the prime numbers that we get. Sometimes you guys make those circles right on top of the number and then you can't read the number. So you want to make the circles nice and clean. Think of a pair of eyes poking out at you. Okay? So when we get to 4, we have 2 times 2. And we circle that. We write 2 times 2 times 2. We're going to leave this in expanded form. We don't want exponential form. Then we're going to come over here and we're going to do 18. So we have 3 times 6. You could use 2 times 9 as well. I'm going to circle the 3. Again, I'm going to think of eyes. Look at his eyes. Think of Mr. Owl's eyes. And think about how clearly you can see those eyes. So you want to think that when you look at when you circle your 3, you want to think of Mr. Owl's eyes. And you want to be able to see inside. So we're going to do 2 times 3. And we're going to circle those. We're going to write this in numerical order because now we have prime factors that are more than just one number. Now be careful, because now we're going to do the same thing we did to find the greatest common factor. For simplicity's sake, this time I'm going to bring the 2's over. So I'm going to line up the 2's. Oh, there was my phone. I can't believe it. I apologize. And notice I have 3 2's for the 8 and a 2 times 3 times 3 for the 18. What do I have in common? I have 1, 2. Now that is the greatest common factor. To get the LCM, you just simply write what's left over between the two numbers. Very important. Whatever's left, we brought this down, we crossed it out. There's 1, 2. Whatever is left, you bring down to multiply. Because we're not interested in the factor. We're interested in what both numbers go into. So we bring down this 2, this 2, the 2 3s, and then we multiply. And after we do that, don't get confused with that, that is our LCM. We have to multiply it. And instead of going left to right, because as you go left to right, the numbers will get bigger. Remember I told you to start right and then multiply to your left, because it's easier just to double numbers. So 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. Times 2, 36. Times 2 is 72. So the LCM is 72. Using prime factorization, I want you to try these two problems. You're going to find the prime factorization to find the least common multiple, or the LCM. You're going to find 12 and 14 between those two numbers, the least common multiple, and then you're going to do 64 and 72. Now you might say, well, Mrs. Cohen, all you have to do is multiply these two numbers and you'd get a multiple. Yes, you could just multiply those two numbers and get a multiple, but it's not the least common multiple. It's just it's a multiple just by multiplying the two together. So the least common multiple, we want to get the smallest number that they both go into. So stop the video and do the problem. Alright, let's see how you did. I want to point out that if we just multiplied 12 times 14 to see what the multiple was, we would have gotten 168. But the least common multiple you should have gotten is 84. So right there, if I just multiplied those together, I would get it incorrect, because that is not the smallest number that 12 and 14 both go into. So you should have that 12's prime factorization is 2 times 2 times 3, and that 14 is 2 times 7. I move the 2 times 7 over here under 2 times 2 times 3. We have 1, 2 in common. And then, what do we have to do? We have to write what? All that's left. It might be a good habit to circle all that's left so that you don't forget anything. I have a 2 left, a 3 left, and a 7. I bring them down. So I have 2 times 2 times 3 times 7. Then I have to multiply, and I'm going to go right to left. 7 times 3 is 21. Times 2 is 42. Times 2 is 84. 64 and 72. If we simply multiply the two together, we would have gotten 4,608. Yes, that's a multiple of the two numbers. They will both go into that. But it's not the smallest number they go into. So we break it down into prime factorization. I apologize, it's a little messy. So we get 8 times 8. You should have 6 twos. 6 twos for the prime factorization of 64. 72 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. So you should have 3 twos and 2 threes. 3 twos and 2 threes. That's interesting, isn't it? So then I line them up, and I have 3 twos in common. See that? But what did I have left over? See, I crossed these out. I've already used them. I have 3 twos I circled, and I have 2 threes. So I bring all of that down. So then I have to multiply. So when you multiplied, you should have had 6 twos and 2 threes. That will give you the least common multiple. When you multiply all of that from right to left, you get 576. Bring all of the leftovers down and then multiply. Now, I need you to write down 2 things that you learned and 1 question you still have. And I will see you in class tomorrow. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.